Hi, this is James Melendez, James All About Business. Today, join me for this presentation on Lean Enterprise Methodology, positioning organizations for optimized and differentiated value. Stay tuned. Now, I think this is an important feature. A lot of people think about lean manufacturing, and if so, that is correct. But I've updated this to really apply to all organizational types. Now, process over personality is essential. This is very important to think about because 9 out of 10 organizations will choose personality over process. Now, it sounds like this. You might hear things like, we've always done it this way. Everything seems to be working just fine. Or perhaps you might hear a manager saying to you, did you talk to John on how we do things? Let's follow what John does. I've been in organizations where I almost had no ability to implement a change or do so with a particular prescription that I might want to implement. Or perhaps I received a voice of customer and was able to really pull in those particular features to optimize a process. And ultimately, what I've been trying to do in an organization had been defeated because personality over-trumped that. Now, the other thing is also very evident in many organizations today. I have worked for organizations that have implemented the wrong software. They've implemented a software that was not fit for purpose. It was implemented because somebody at that organization wanted it. Perhaps they didn't do a full assessment or really engage stakeholders at an organization to see if a new technology was needed. Perhaps it was an upgrade that was needed from the old system. And I've been part of organizations that implement expensive systems. They're expensive to operate. They're expensive to find people who can actually maintain them. And so these things happen time and again. And when this happens, there's a stir in terms of trying to get to a solution. So you're building in an organization end-to-end processes, and you find that the process you're working on has been upended because a new technology or new software is going to be implemented. So the organizations I've been involved with either have too much computing power, too many systems, perhaps too many instances. One particular organization that I was with had several of the same ERPs, but different instances. One person in one group couldn't operate the other one because they were different versions. And they were very specific and hard to operate on their own with an organization that typically just has one. Lean is often confused with cost cutting and job elimination. It is truly about neither. Yes, there may be some job elimination, but this would perhaps happen in any organization for any other reason. Cost cutting, it's not just about cost cutting. It's about really operating at an optimized level, finding the right solutions to the organization so that it is doing the right things and being more efficient with the resources that it is using. I was in one organization where there was a rollout of operational excellence, and it was treated as a cost-cutting measure, job elimination. So the organization had laid off people, and in doing so, it caught people off guard quite a number of times. Anytime anything was being implemented, the organization was very fearful of that particular rollout of a methodology or a program or initiative. So these things need to be thought about. There was a lack of communication plan. In fact, there was no communication plan. It was expected that each people manager, each leader, each middle management or chief of staff could pick this up and explain what it meant, even when they had no roadmap to understand, explain, and give the rationale for operational excellence. The same thing can happen with lean. And so I've seen this confused as well. So an organization should have a communication plan, a rollout, and really be transparent about what it's trying to get from this. Now, I'm going to give some examples of Lean and Lean Six Sigma. It's often thought of as an organization that is implementing, say, Six Sigma, or Lean is also going to use Six Sigma. So Lean Six Sigma, mixing of these two methodologies. I would insist that actually Six Sigma is a part of Lean and therefore does not need to be called out. There are two organizations that I pulled their definitions, and I'm just going to read to you specifically what they've called out. So one organization says Six Sigma is to reduce defects by effectively solving problems. And the other group says focuses on quality and consistency through process improvement and variation reduction. Now, lean by each of these organizations, one definition is reduce waste by streamlining the process. I find that to be fascinating because the process, as if there's only one. Organizations have multiple of processes that are end-to-end and sometimes have no connection to another. The next definition on lean is to focus efficiency through the minimization of waste and error and delays. And if you combine these together, The first definition is that Lean Six Sigma is Lean accelerates Six Sigma problems and improving processes and is faster and more efficient. The definition here, in my opinion, is not so clear. It could have been written just a little bit better. So I'm just in the spirit of just using exactly what they wrote. This is their definition. Now, the other definition is deliver customer value through efficient operations and quality standards. I think each of these definitions, while very top line, are really not, I think, exactly hitting what Lean Six Sigma is or Lean in general. Many organizations do view these very separately, even though, in my opinion, a center of excellence would run each of these. And I do believe that Six Sigma is a part of Lean Enterprise. Now, I did write this particular function such as the DMAIC or DMADIV. And so you can see each of these features, which are really components of Six Sigma, and how Lean actually utilizes that. Now, here's my definition of Lean Enterprise. It's implementing center of excellence methodologies and tools to optimize efficiency, accuracy, and building capabilities to create value for customers, stakeholders, and shareholders, aligning to regulatory framework and ESG principles. So this does encompass what I believe Lean Enterprise to be. I'm going to talk about 3 different methodologies in addition to Lean Enterprise. Now, when I look at TPS, that Toyota Production System, that's really something enforced, say, from the 1940s, 1950s to the very present, say, the namesake of Toyota. When you see TPS, you're going to see often the word Lean or the House of Lean attached to it. So in TPS, the motto is creating quality products. Six Sigma, which was adopted by Motorola in the early 1980s, is talking about right the first time. And so that's a quality initiative that's about creating quality products. The assumption is by doing so, everything else is solved and there's nothing else that needs to be worked on. As we know today, that is not true. Other organizations and industries have adopted Six Sigma in different ways. And so General Electric was the next major organization that implemented Six Sigma. Other industries such as, say, biotechnology, biopharma, pharma also adopted Six Sigma. And we look at Lean, say Lean production, Lean management. That's from, say, the late 1980s all the way to the present. But I would really emphasize that we're using less of that and more Lean Enterprise. If I use the word Lean production, that really just implies that this is for organizational types that are manufacturing. Now, when I look at this as well, I'm going to really hone in on, say, the motto for Lean Enterprise, which is creating value with human and resource partnership. It's not completely different from the other mottos of creating quality products. That is still part of Lean. So all these come to a different focus area, but much more specific, much more intended to engage different aspects of an organization and enterprise to making sure these focus areas of Lean are being implemented. Say the focus area of Lean Enterprise is highly differentiated products and services, stakeholder community alignment, and optimize customer experience, change management culture, and so forth. So these are particular focus areas that Lean Enterprise seeks to address. So when I look at designers, this is fascinating because the traditional designers in the past have really been engineers. The stakeholders in Lean Enterprise is much more expansive. You have individual contributors, product management. The word product management or the phrase did not exist prior to, say, 2010. And I was working in an organization where I was doing that work, but it wasn't called product management. Today, we look at this differently. There's also aspects of really defining stakeholders. Who are they? Financial, operations, marketing, management, and leadership is also an important stakeholder. Regulators, suppliers, partners, and so many more. Improvement areas are looking at things in the past that we looked at, such as technical, but we also look at quality management, being more efficient, being more accurate, increasing enterprise value. There's also a way of learning or teaching. And so I look at this in terms of, say, Gemba. Gemba is a part of this. It's part of Toyota Production System. What Gemba means is to really walk around and to help people understand how the organization operates. It could be a manager, a leader. It could be somebody who's really involved with knowing how the organization is creating value, how the organization is operating, observing how that work is done, potentially looking for solutions, and sometimes even getting and soliciting particular solutions to a problem because a manager is aware of that. Now, Gemba today, and I put down here, Gemba experiential. This is the world we're in today. This is a period of time that is, I would say, somewhat of a post-COVID world now. Gemba is about where people are working today. It's not always on a factory floor. While it still can be that, it's also other places. So you can look at the many tech stacks of an organization, and that particular manager or leader can be part of that, can see that, can experience it, and understand how work is done. So I think Gemba experiential is important. Center of Excellence methodology is a way of learning. It's a way of teaching. It's a way of how a center of excellence can pull out a methodology to help an organization to learn better and to onboard to particular technologies and methodologies and to help increase the organization's value, helping an organization to be a better place to work in. Kaizen is always a part of each and every one of these methodologies, and that's about incremental improvement. Outcomes and success markers. And again, just focusing in on lean enterprise, it's really to create differentiated products and services. It's also about creating high customer loyalty. Profitability is important. How many organizations have you been in where perhaps you are working at an organization that isn't profitable, or perhaps an organization that has really had a downturn in its profitability? They're not easy places to work in, and a lot of things are counterintuitive, maybe hiring less people or perhaps a layoff. And while trying to become profitable, it's very hard to do that without the level of support that you might have had before. And therefore, it seems definitely counterintuitive to create a solution and to create an outcome that will help the organization to succeed. It's engaging stakeholders. It's about being an amazing place to work in. I think a lot of people, individual contributors in particular, have often said that their organizations are hard places to work in. In fact, they get very little work time to get focused and to do that work, and have to spend their weekends and evenings to get their daytime work done. So that's an important feature that I think this is a potential successful outcome of engaging a lean enterprise methodology and mindset. Now, you might be asking, what could an organization do to implement a lean enterprise methodology? I would say the first thing you do is have an executive sponsor. The executive sponsor could be one sponsor or perhaps an executive management team. And then a program lead, perhaps somebody from the Center of Excellence who has experience with this, or an organization that is not going to hire, say, an outside consultant to do everything for them. But I do believe an organization needs to do this in terms of finding people in the organization, A, who are interested and passionate about this kind of work, but secondly, to really have people in the organization to find the solutions. You can find people from the outside world, consultants. An outside consultant will not always solve the problems that you need to solve internally, and it will not be organic. It's also about planning, making sure it's a written plan, communication plan, implementation, and so forth. And next, launching and supporting. So it's about making sure that the support features for this are continuous. It's not just a one-time, we hope things work. And that's where organizations fall to pieces. Where organizations fail is when they are not really looking at supporting for the long run. That is, that it's once you get started, there's nothing else to do. No other investment is needed. Instead, this is an investment when you are not solving for more holistic reasons. And there's many things in an organization that need to be solved. If you're not solving for all of them, then you're not going to solve for any of them. So you have to really look at this in terms of, number one, problems don't solve themselves. Number two, problems don't decrease in terms of their difficulty to solve over time. They get much more complicated. So when I look at launching and supporting, this has to be a full-time commitment, but it's one that will pay handsomely in dividends in many ways that your organization needs and everyone in your organization would appreciate. And then lastly, to really analyze what is happening to the program, to the organization. How is the organization benefiting from lean enterprise methodology? There's a way of doing this in a way that is important to analyze to increase continuous improvement. And no organization is ever free from doing that. Just because you've done this once does not mean your job is over. So when you think of organizations that stop evolving, stop having a continuous improvement mindset and platform, what do? They become unprofitable. They go bankrupt. So those organizations that don't exist today, that existed 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago, that don't exist. because they didn't improve continuously. They thought their job was done. Think of particular sectors in our economy today, especially in the United States. Think about the retail sector. There was a sense that we need to do nothing else. Several things happened along the way: Amazon, COVID, and so forth. And so, shopping patterns of customers have changed as well. And so, a lot of people want things home delivered. And so, when we think of all these things, those organizations that were really stuck in a world that was pre COVID and pre Amazon are suffering today in terms of profitability and relevancy. So there's a lot of things you can look at in terms of continuous improvement is something that's required for all organizations to think about, to do, to implement, and to realize. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please list your questions and comments down below. I'll answer as many as I can. And share this video with somebody interested in lean enterprise methodology. I'll see you in the next video very soon. Thank you.